Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our gentle yoga class, where we will also be exploring the yamas and niyamas. So, we're on our first class of our series, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. I did want to set you up with some props. So, in this class, I do like to show a lot of different variations using props. So, I have a folding chair can be helpful. I also have a bolster and blanket. I'm practicing on carpet myself. I have like double carpet, so it makes it extra padding. I also have a strap and two blocks. So I'm going to invite you to come to any comfortable position. You can modify anything that you like. One way that I love starting class is laying on the back in what's called constructive rest pose. I'm actually just going to show that on the bed. Um, because you can also practice yoga from a bed. Okay. So you might give yourself a little pillow for underneath your head. It can be really nice for your low back to actually, instead of laying with your legs all the way flat, you might bring your feet onto your mat and then tent your knees together. So you're walking the feet out wide and your knees are kind of caving in towards each other, creating a bit of support for each other. So we call this constructive rest pose. You can rest your hands right on your belly if you like, with your elbows resting on the ground, or you can lay your arms at your sides. Could even feel good to cactus your arms. So lots of different options. Find what feels most comfortable for you. When I go to get up and down from the ground, I also like to use these blocks. So just using blocks to get ourselves up and down can be helpful. And then if you don't want to lay down, you can always come to a seat. We'll start by just tuning into our breath. You might imagine your thoughts just like these fall leaves. Maybe you can imagine them settling by allowing them to fall towards the ground. And as your thoughts begin to settle, maybe you can just take a moment to scan your body, noticing for areas of tension or holding, and allowing yourself to invite in some relaxation. I was mentioning also the idea of the yamas and niyamas, and these are yoga's ethical practices. So there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. The yamas are considered to be restraints. And that sounds kind of negative, but it's actually a good thing. It's like, how do we train ourselves really to act in the world? And then the niyamas are all about internally, how do we create an adult relationship with ourselves? So as this 10-week series progresses, I will do one each week. The first one is called Ahimsa, and it means nonviolence. In the book by Deborah Adele, she says, nonviolence is so valued that it stands at the very core and foundation of all yoga philosophy and practice. Our ability to be nonviolent to others is directly related to our ability to be nonviolent with ourselves. Our inner strength and character determine our ability to be a person of peace at home and in the world. We can grow our capacity to be nonviolent by learning how to move through everyday challenges of our life and by addressing the things that precipitate our tendency towards violence. We can do this by proactively practicing courage, balance, love of self, and compassion for others. So I highly recommend this book. It's one of my very favorites if you're interested in learning more about her thoughts on nonviolence. At this time, go ahead and set for yourself an intention for your practice. Something you would like to cultivate or something you'd like to release. And in the book, she talks about each of the yamas and niyamas as a jewel. So maybe you want to imagine your intention, whatever it is, as a glowing jewel. And then we'll all make our way, if you can, onto your back. If it's hard to get up and down from the floor onto your back, you're always welcome to lay in a bed or sit on a chair. We're going to find some windshield wipers with the knees so you can walk the feet out as wide as the mat. Extend your arms into a letter T shape, and then just allow your knees to softly begin to sway from side to side. You might even begin to turn your nose away from your knees. So you're kind of thinking about shaking your head gently no. The next time your knees fall over to the left, you can go ahead and leave them there, making yourself comfortable. You might start to extend your right arm long. So you're kind of finding this length from your right fingers down towards the armpit, side of the waist and chest, all along the hip, down to the right thigh, towards the knee. And then we'll inhale to lift the knees back up to center. Bring the right arm back to your side and then float the knees over to the right this time. You can lift and lengthen your left arm. So you're kind of forming this long line from your left fingertips down your forearm, upper arm, underneath the armpit towards the side of the chest, the waist, the hip, the thigh down to the knee. Maybe you even want to peek your gaze up towards your left fingertips. And then we'll come back to center. You can bring both arms back to center. And we're going to find a deeper twist now. So you can press in, walk your heels in a little bit, press into your heels to lift your hips, and then start to float your hips a little bit side to side. So you're thinking about swinging your hips just like a hammock. And then we'll bump the hips over to the left, stack the knees, or sorry, we're bumping it over to the right, stacking the knees to the left. I can really be challenged by left and right sometimes. And then you're going to open your arms up into a letter T. So you're finding kind of a deeper twist. And you might turn your gaze over towards your right hand, allowing your body to settle into this shape. Remembering to treat yourself with kindness and compassion, practicing Ahimsa. So what that could mean in your practice today is that you give yourself lots of opportunity to make yourself comfortable. We have an option for movement here. So one option would be to float the right hand up and over the body, reach it past the left fingertips, and then glide your right fingertips along your arm, along your chest, and back open into your twist. So feel free to find this movement if you like. A different variation of this would be to instead draw a semicircle over your head. So you're kind of gliding your hand, almost touching the floor. It's like a rainbow overhead. The next time your hands meet, we're going to land on our left side. And here's where I like to use a block. So you can either prop your head up on your hand. I realize I'm kind of being blocked by the flowers, so I'll move down a little bit. So you're kind of like in a slumber party position with your head on your hand. Or you could slide a block underneath the temple. And I really love this sensation of my head resting on the temple or the block, my head resting on the block, because I think it's like kind of a nice massage for the side of the head. We're going to do our clamshells from here so we can glue the heels together and start to lift and lower the top knee away from the bottom knee, keeping the body relatively steady and thinking about sending gratitude into the right hip. As you move, you can breathe into the right hip joint, breathing in strength, stability, and perhaps gratitude. You can take it at the pace of your own breath and feel free to stop anytime you need a rest. Once more, giving yourself that compassion, allowing yourself to practice balancing effort and ease. Whenever you feel ready to stop this, we're going to turn this into the option of cat chasing its tail twist. So you can lower the knees so that they're now in a straight line with the body instead of being out in front. We're going to lift the top knee, the right knee, lower it down either to the ground, or if it's not feeling comfortable to meet the ground, you can always pad it with a blanket. And feel free to give a little stretch to that hip. Maybe you even take your fist and give a gentle massage to the hip down into the quad area as well, all around the glute. And then for the cat chasing its tail twist, you can start to bring your right hand to your right shoulder, sink the shoulder back. And so we're coming into a twist. That shoulder is not going to meet the ground. And then this is a third option here. So this is totally, might be accessible, it might not be. But you can release the hand down and there's your foot. So that's the bottom foot. And if it feels crampy at all, then don't grab hold of it. If there's any cramping in the quad, you can always just relax into this kind of version of a twist. But if you want to stretch the bottom quad, you could grab hold of the foot and then allow yourself to settle in. So remember that there's no right or wrong, there's no better or worse here. It's just options. We have options for different variations. We'll take one more nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, we'll unwind from the twist, come onto your back, press into your heels to reset your spine. So you can press into your heels, lengthen your spine, and just take a moment to pause. So coming back to constructive rest. You might take a sigh out through the mouth. Just start to tune your awareness into any places that you notice. We're going to get ready to do all of that on the other side. So I'll scooch around so I can still face you. And then from here, we're going to press into the heels, lift the hips, and sway the hips a little side to side. So you're finding a little bit of a hammock motion. Then we'll bump the hips over to the left, land the right hip on the mat, stack the knees, open your arms into a letter T, and maybe you turn your gaze over towards your left hand, softening into your twist. Take a moment to notice the places where your body is making contact with the earth. And see if you can let go of holding or tension. And then we have the option of either one of those rainbows. So we can stretch the left fingertips up towards the sky, float them over the body as you roll on to your right side. Reach your left hand past your right fingertips and then allow for a glide of the hand across the inner arm, the chest, opening back up into a twist. There's this option, or there's the semicircle overhead. So finding what works best for you, what feels good in your body, or maybe just stillness in your twist. The next time you land on your right side, feel free to prop your head up with your hand, your right hand, or you can place that block right underneath your temple.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
And we'll go ahead and find our clamshells now. So gluing the heels together, you can lift and lower the top knee. See if you notice any variations from left to right. And if you do, can you offer yourself kindness and compassion? Moving at the pace of your own breath. Whenever you feel done, you can always take a rest. See if you can circle the hip joint with gratitude. When you're ready to pause this action, we'll close down the knees, slide them down so they're in a straight line with the body, and then you can lift the top knee, lower it down to the ground just to find a stretch through the glute. Maybe you give a little fist bump to the side of the glute, the hip, down to the quad. When you feel done with that gentle massage, you could bring your left hand to your shoulder and just allow your shoulder to sink back, finding a twist. And then if you want to catch the foot for the quad stretch, you could reach the hand down and grab hold of the foot or the ankle. And if you're getting any cramping, you can just let that part go. You can always try it another time. Maybe just bringing your hand to your hip, or you could tuck that left hand behind you if it feels okay for the shoulder, if you're not holding on to the foot. Let's take one more nice deep breath here. And then when you're ready, we'll roll back onto the back, release the block, press into the heels to lift the hips, and then you can lengthen the spine and just come back to your constructive rest pose one more time. Softening your effort, relaxing your spine onto the earth. Now, I forgot to check in to see if people have a strap, but if you don't have a strap, you could always gather a towel. You can also do this without any support and just grab onto your pant leg. I have this really nice big strap because I decided that for this particular pose, I liked a really, really long strap, and I'll show you why that is. So I have a strap that I've looped, and most yoga straps have like a little buckle where you can loop it. This one happens to be I don't even know actually. Oh, I can't read that without my readers. It might be like a 10-foot strap though. And the reason why I like this is because we're going to do, it's called hand to foot pose. So I like to take the big loop and loop it around so that I have part of the strap underneath my armpits wrapped around my back. And then the loop is long enough so that when I lay down, I can wrap the strap around the ball of my foot. And with a shorter strap, or even like a kitchen towel or something, maybe like a belt, or the belt that you use on a robe, you could use any of those for props. What's nice about this extra long strap is normally you're holding on with your hands, and you can even, if your strap is long enough, glide your hands down to rest your elbows on the ground. But what's nice about this extra long one is that actually I have it looped around my back in such a way that it's holding my foot up. So the goal here is really just to hold the foot up towards the sky, kind of a gentle inversion. And we call this one Supta Pada Gustasana, which is Supta means on your back, and it's hand to foot. Pada, I think, is maybe hand, Gustasana, foot, something like that. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I probably should have looked that up before saying it, maybe. That's okay. You can try and get it wrong, get it right. Okay, giving yourself lots of grace and compassion. So from here, you can hold on and keep your foot lifted up towards the sky. I'm starting with the right foot up. And you can keep your left foot grounded on the ground, or you could glide the left leg long if you want a deeper stretch. So feel free to explore that. We're going to stay here for a few rounds of breath. And then we're going to try opening it out to the right. So as you pause here, can you see where in your body you can soften? Maybe you can imagine your breath as you start to breathe in deeply. And I forgot to mention about yogic breathing. So one of the breath practices we use in yoga is called ujjayi breathing. And as you start to settle in, you might start to practice it by breathing in and out slowly through your nose. And you might start to listen for the sound of your breath. It's almost like you are holding a shell from the ocean up to your ear, and you can hear the ocean waves. And then we'll transfer the reins of the strap into the right hand if you like, and start to open your right foot out to the right, any amount. So we're thinking about stretching through the inner thigh. When we lengthen our exhale a bit longer than our inhale, this helps us sink into relaxation, softening the tension that might be living in the jaw or the shoulders. And then on your next inhale breath, we'll bring the leg back up to center. And this time you're going to take the reins of the strap, bring them into your left hand, and you can just allow the left or that right leg to cross the midline. So you're not coming into a twist. Both of your hip bones are rooted on the earth. Your whole entire back is flat on the ground. We're just trying to stretch into the outer edge of the right leg. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. And then you can bring the leg back to center, release the foot from the strap, but try to keep the foot lifted. And then you can gently begin to allow that leg to cascade down towards the ground with some control from the core. And when you're ready, you can land both legs long. Take a nice long body stretch. So reach the arms overhead if it feels comfortable. If not, maybe cactus the arms. Start to rotate the wrists and the ankles. And all of that movement is so good for our joints. Helps to lubricate the joints with that movement. And then you can reverse the direction of those circles. Take a moment to just notice the difference from left to right and observe any desires. So maybe you're feeling like itchy to get to the other side. You want to feel the balance. And that's something interesting to notice. We can start by bending the knees, planting both feet on the mat, and then this time we'll lasso the left foot with the strap. So you can wrap the strap around the ball of the left toes, stretch the foot long. I forgot to say that if you didn't have a strap, you could also hug on to the leg. So maybe you would hug on to your pant leg. You could interlace your hands behind your thigh. It doesn't feel so accessible for me personally, and I like this idea of keeping the foot in the strap. So see what supplies you have to make this accessible for yourself. And then you can think about keeping your right foot on the ground, or you could stretch the right leg long, and that might deepen the stretch. So we always can give ourselves options, not judging one as better than the other. And see if you can imagine what it would be like for your ocean like breath to extend down the length of the back of your leg. Notice where you can let go of tension or holding. And then when you're ready, we're going to open the left leg out to the left so you can transfer the reins of your strap into your left hand. Open the left leg any amount. If you felt like it was going too far, and that would be another place where you could use blocks. So you could wedge a block underneath your left thigh. I forgot to mention that on the right side, just to give yourself an anchor of support. Or maybe there's a pillow or blanket you would want to put underneath the side of the leg, just so that you didn't have to go to your absolute edge. Allow yourself to sink into sensation. You might close down the eyes or soften the gaze. Breathing into the inner thigh. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. Then we're going to lift the leg back up to center. Transfer the reins of the strap into the right hand now, and then allow the left leg to gently cross the midline. Breathing into the outer edge of the left leg this time. Keeping the whole back body rooted and grounded. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. And when you're ready, you can float the leg back to center, release the foot from the strap, allow the left leg to slowly begin to part the molecules of air as it gently, with control, cascades down to the ground. See if it surprises you where the ground is when it lands. And then take a long body stretch if you like, rotating the wrists and the ankles. We're going to make our way next to a seat. So you can either hug your knees in towards your chest, rock and roll up and down the length of your spine if that feels good, or simply roll onto one side and press yourself up to a seat. When you come to seated, this is where you might like to use, I have a bolster or a blanket or both, and then you can make a little pillow to sit on. You might come into a crisscross applesauce type of seat, or you can also sit on a chair if coming onto the ground is uncomfortable. And then a third option would be to come to hands and knees. That's not everyone's favorite because of wrist and knee issues sometimes. So I'm going to be showing the seated version of cat and cow, stretching through the spine. But if you prefer to be on hands and knees, if it's okay for your knees and your wrists, that's fine too. So choose your own adventure. Find which feels most comfortable for you. And again, you could use the chair here. So we're going to inhale to lift the heart forward, pressing the hands against the knees, and then exhale to round the spine back. So this is cat and cow, just from a seated position. So go ahead and follow the pace of your own breath, stretching through cat and cow. You might imagine as you move your spine that it's like polishing silverware. Can you imagine those vertebrae of your spine being polished with movement? And then at any time, feel free to find some organic movement. Maybe you want to draw a nice big circle with the belly button or with the heart. Almost imagining you're tracing the inside of a hula hoop. And then when you're ready, we'll go the other direction. Maybe you can bring your neck into the mix, moving your head a little bit. And then when you're ready, we'll come back to center. If you're in hands and knees, feel free to take a child's pose. So you would be bringing your big toes to touch, your knees open wide, and then you stretch your arms out in front. If you're seated, you might want to stretch through the hips a different way. So maybe you bring the soles of your feet to touch, remembering that you could also use the blocks here for support. So you might actually give yourself a little bit of support underneath the knees. So I just am using the blocks here underneath the knees. You can inhale to lift and lengthen the spine, and then exhale, folding over your diamond shape of your legs. And that could be maybe very small movement, maybe not going to your absolute extreme. So exploring what feels right for you in your body. Taking a moment to pause and taking some nice deep breaths. And then when you're ready, we'll come back up tall, lengthening the spine. Now we're going to move into some variations of downward dog, which you're also always welcome to skip. But I'm going to show you how you can use a chair for downward facing dog. So I like to use blocks underneath my hands. Anytime I'm going to get up from the floor, you can step 1 foot forward, tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee, and then you could use the blocks for downward dog, but I'll just show the chair version. So from a chair, I'm going to walk my feet back with the hands on the chair. The goal here is to lengthen the spine. So we're leaning back a little bit, maybe sashaying the hips a little side to side. You could pedal the feet out, lengthen through the arms and the spine. And at any time, if you want to skip down dog, you can always just move to a forward fold instead. And for a forward fold, I like to make my feet a little bit wider than hips distance. And then you could allow your arms to relax towards the ground, or wrap your hands around your opposite elbows and just take a nice gentle ragdoll here, swaying from side to side. And then we'll come back to center. You can press your palms either on the chair, on blocks, or if you don't have either one, you can bring your hands to your shins or your thighs. We'll press into support to lift and lengthen the spine up halfway. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And then we inhale when we lift up halfway. They call this Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. We call this one Uttanasana. And then you can spring load your knees Find a little bounce as you rise up tall to stand. We'll sweep the hands around and then draw the hands together to meet at your heart center. And just take a moment to come into a standing position. We call this Tadasana or mountain pose. So for mountain pose, this is a standing balance. We're standing and we're balancing on our 2 feet. So see if you can imagine your feet rooting down, a soft micro bend in your knees, a slight tuck of your tailbone so that you're feeling some engagement in your core. And then you can open your palms to face forward. Let's roll the shoulders up towards the ears and then glide them down the back. And just find yourself here in mountain pose. Maybe even challenge your balance by closing down the eyes, or you can find a fixed location. This soft, gentle gaze, either at the ground or at the horizon, we call a dristi. It's just allowing us to focus on our balance. We're going to play around now with tree pose, which is a standing balance, and you can use some support. So feel free to recruit support. Maybe you want the support of a chair to hold on to, or a wall space if you had a wall space. You could always have the wall behind you so that if you felt like you were going to fall, you could lean into the wall, or you might have the wall right next to you to hold on to. Let's start by bringing our hands to our hips, and then from here, we're going to peel the right heel off of the mat. So you can see my right heel is lifted. And then just to massage through the foot and practice our balance a little bit, let's start to draw some circles with the heel. And you might notice some snap, crackle, pops in the heel, in the ankle. And remember, we're just lubricating the joints here. Now for tree pose, we're going to pause and then open the right knee out. Rest your heel maybe on your ankle. And this is again where you could hold on to something for support. So holding onto the chair could be a good option. Or again, the wall. Now this is one place you can stay for tree pose, or sometimes you like to go a little further. Maybe you want to glide your foot to rest on your calf. Sometimes people reach down and they bring their foot all the way to the inner thigh. That's not where I'm going today. So finding wherever you want to be to practice your balance, and then finding that focal point, the dristi. You could invite one or both hands to meet at your heart center. If you're holding on to something for support, you would maybe just want to bring one hand. And then feel free to grow your tree limbs. So you might reach one arm up towards the sky or both arms up. And then we're going to challenge our balance here. So let's bring the knee back to center. Kick your right foot out in front. And then softly bring it down to the ground. Let's step the feet out wide and shake it all off. Thinking of yourself now as a palm tree, swaying in the wind. Allow your arms to gently graze your sides, finding a nice twist through the spine. Shaking it all off. And then we'll come back to our standing mountain pose, Tadasana. And you can find that dristi once more, or challenge your balance, maybe by closing down the eyes. Sink your awareness for a moment down into your heart center, searching for that glowing jewel, your intention. How can we be soft and kind and loving and compassionate towards ourselves? And then we'll blink the eyes open. We're going to do tree pose on the other side now. So let's see if I can remember. I think we're transferring the weight into the right foot, lifting the left heel and finding some ankle rotations, massaging through the ankle, going the other way when you feel ready. And then you can bring the heel to rest right on the ankle with the toes touching down, opening the knee for tree pose, or you can slide the foot up to rest on the calf, the upper thigh, wherever feels comfortable for you. You could bring both hands to meet at the heart center, finding that drishti either on the ground or at the horizon. And then feel free to grow your tree limbs, either one or both. Taking some nice deep breaths. Extending the exhale. And then when you're ready, we'll kick the foot out in front, step it to the side, and shake it all off. When you're ready, we'll come back to center. And then we're going to do something to stretch through the hips. So I have a couple of different options for you. You can either come to lying on your back or lying on a bed, or I want to show you a seated version from a chair. Because in my last class I taught before this one, somebody was working with the chair as opposed to getting down, up and down from the ground. So this is figure 4 pose, stretching through the hips. So it'll look like this. I'm going to extend the left leg long, bring the right ankle on top of either the shin, or you might reach down and bring it on top of the knee onto the thigh. And then so you're in a figure 4 stance here. You can inhale to lift and lengthen the spine, and then to get a deeper stretch, you can start to lean your heart forward towards your shin, flexing the foot back. So this is what it would look like in a chair, and you'll be able to do both sides. If you're doing it from the ground, I'm going to suggest something where you can put your feet onto. So I'm going to show you from the bed. You can either do this on the ground with your feet up against furniture, or you can see I have this nice ledge on the edge of the bed. So I would extend the left leg long, bring the right foot or ankle onto the thigh, and then draw the shape into the body. Many people will suggest you interlace your hands behind your left thigh and draw the shape in. If that doesn't feel accessible to interlace your hands back there, you could also use the strap to loop around the thigh. But what I love about using the support of furniture or even a wall is that your hands can stay hands-free. You could cactus your arms. You could rest your hands on your belly to feel the rise and fall of your breath. And we're looking to experience a stretch through the hip. We'll take one more nice deep breath on this side. And then when you feel ready, you can extend both legs long. Maybe give your knees a little sway from side to side And then when you feel ready, set up for your second side. So bringing the left ankle to rest on top of the right thigh, drawing the shape into the body if you want to deepen the stretch. Or maybe you're experiencing this from a chair. If you've taken some yoga classes before, you might be familiar with the pose pigeon. And this is kind of giving a similar stretch in figure 4. So just allowing yourself an opportunity to stretch through the hip. See if you can send gratitude towards the hip joint. And then when you feel ready, you can come back to stillness and bring both feet onto the mat. Open your arms out wide to the side and allow the knees to windshield wiper from side to side, turning the gaze in the opposite direction. Now we're going to move to set up for everyone's favorite pose, or one of our most important shapes, which is our final rest. And we will have quite a bit of time to be in our final rest. So if there were other poses, any other shapes and stretches you wanted to take before you were ready to wind down, you could always include that here and now. Some things that might be really nice to set up for your final resting pose, Shavasana or corpse pose, would be maybe to drape a blanket over the body. You could also bring a pillow underneath the knees. And if it felt really like a strain on the low back, to stretch the legs long, another option is to just come back into that constructive rest pose. It can be a little gentler on the low back to keep the feet on the mat and just allow the knees to tent together. It's the same way we started class. So feel free to take any last shapes that you like. I guess one other option I could mention is a gentle inversion. So if you were finding you were using furniture for your figure 4, you could rest your legs up onto a couch, a legs up the chair. So we're gonna pause for some quiet relaxation, and then I will be reawakening you shortly with another reading from the yamas and niyamas on the theme of nonviolence. So I'll go ahead and let you have that moment of quiet where you can soften through your forehead, your jaw, your shoulders. See if you can allow any thoughts to fade away as you come into relaxation. Ahimsa, nonviolence, invites us to question the feeling of powerlessness. We have a choice to take action. We have a choice to change the stories we are telling ourselves. 3 ways of thinking that shift feelings of powerlessness. Practicing gratitude, trusting in the moment, and thinking of others. Situations where we feel powerless can also be opportunities to grow our skill level. In the words of Yogi Raj Achala, I excite myself with my incompetencies. With this attitude, feelings of powerlessness become opportunities to become competent rather than violent. Our ability to stay balanced and courageous has much to do with how we feel about ourselves. How we treat ourselves is in truth how we treat those around us. If you are light-hearted and forgiving with yourself, others will feel the ease and joy of being with you. If you can find laughter and delight in yourself, others will feel healed in your presence. We will express love for others by treating them the same way we treat ourselves. Love lies at the core of nonviolence and begins with love of self. A love that is forgiving and lenient. A love that sees the humor in imperfections and accepts the fullness of human expression. When we find this love for all of the parts of ourselves, we begin to express fully the love that wells up inside of us for others. Finding this love for all of the parts of ourselves means we have to forgive ourselves. Love creates expansion and nonviolence and the true safety that we seek. Nonviolence is woven with love, and love of others is woven with love of self. You can begin to deepen your breath. Imagine a well of love at your heart center and allow it to overflow. And then start to invite some gentle movements into your fingers, into your toes, gently rotating your wrists and your ankles. You can take a nice long body stretch, reaching your arms past your ears. And then go ahead and roll onto one side, cradling yourself for a moment in a fetal position. Slowly, gracefully, you can allow yourself to push up into a seat. And when you arrive, go ahead and invite your hands to meet at your heart center in a gesture of gratitude. We call this Anjali Mudra. It's like a prayer position. And then go ahead and allow your head to bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. It's such an honor and a privilege to guide you through your practice. Thank you all so much for being here. And we can say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And Shanti means peace, enough for ourselves, each other, and the rest of the world. Feel free to stick around if you have thoughts or questions about class.